In number 31, we have a common factor of 10, so start by factoring that out. And now in parentheses, we have a difference, and it is a difference of 2 squares. X to the 6 is a perfect square because 6 is even, and 4 is 2 squared. So this is a difference of 2 squares. So we'll factor this as a difference of 2 squares. And maybe first we'll write this as x cubed squared minus 2 squared. So now we just fill in with x cubed and 2, and so here we have x cubed plus 2 and x cubed minus 2. In number 32, we have a sum of 2 cubes, all right, and so x cubed plus 27 is a sum of 2 cubes. That's x cubed and 3 cubed. So we first put down our 2 sets of parentheses, the small and the big. And the small set we put x plus 3. And remember, in this sum of 2 cubes formula, we have 1 minus and this in the middle here. All right, in the first term we have x squared, this term squared. In the middle we have this times this with a minus. And for the last term we have the 3 squared. That goes here. 3 squared is 9. And that's the factorization. Number 33 is a quadratic. So let's put down our 2 sets of parentheses. Now, 2 things that multiply to 3x squared, that would be 3x and x. Notice C is positive, so our signs here and here are the same. And because of the negative in the middle, we have a minus minus as our 2 signs. All right, now in the last places, we want to put 2 things that multiply to 20. And the sum of our middle terms is going to be 17. All right, so let's say we have 5 times 4 is 20. If we put the 5 here and the 4 here, okay, so let's try that. So we have 5 times 3, that's 15. Here we have a minus 15. And here we have a minus 4, which gives us a minus 19x. Okay, so that's not the right factorization, so we have to try something else. So let's try the 4 here and the 5 here. Okay, so we have minus 5x minus 12x, and the sum is minus 17x. So that's the correct factorization. Okay. All right, number 34 is another quadratic. And here we're going to put an x and an x. Again, notice that C is positive and the middle term is negative. That means the signs are the same and they must be both negative. And here we just put 2 things that multiply to 21. Let's try 7 times 3. And for the middle term, check that. We have minus 7x. Minus 3x, which is minus 10x, which is correct. That's the correct middle term. So this is our factorization. Number 35, again, we have a we have a polynomial. It's not a quadratic at this point. We have to factor out a common factor. Okay, always look for a common factor first. So this one does have a common factor. In the coefficients, we have a common factor of 2. And we also have a common factor of x. So we're going to pull out 2x from our polynomial. And here we're left with x squared minus, pull out 2 from 10, and we're left with 5. Pull out x from x squared, we're left with x. And here pull out 2 from 12, we're left with 6, and we pull out the x. Now here we're left with a quadratic in parentheses, which does factor, so let's factor that. Because c is positive, signs are the same, and because this is negative, the signs are both minus. All right, and we need two factors that multiply to 6, so 3 times 2 will work. Let's just do the middle term in our head. Minus 3x and minus 2x is minus 5x. Okay, so that's the right factorization. In number 36, we don't have a common factor. 23 is odd, so we can't pull out a 2, so we just have to factor this. Okay. All right, now 10x squared, we could try 5x and 2x. 5x times 2x multiplies to 10x squared, so let's try that. And now we need two things that multiply to 12. Okay, everything is positive, so we have plus here and a plus here. Two things that multiply to 12, and the middle terms have to add up to 23. So we can try, let's say, 3 times 4. Okay, so let's say if we put, I'm not going to write this, but if we put a 4 here and a 3 here, then, well, let me put that in. Let's say we try this. 4 here and a 3 here to give 12. All right, that means this second factor can, we can pull out a 2 from this second factor, from the 2x and the 4, and bring that in front. But our original quadratic does not have a factor of 2 in front, or we can't pull out a factor of 2, so this can't be correct. We can't have a 4 here and a 3 here. Okay, so let's erase that. Let's erase that, and we'll switch them around. We'll put the 4 here and the 3 here. And now a factor of 2 does not pull out of either one of these two binomials. All right, so let's just check our middle term. And here we have 4 times 2, that's 8x. 5 times 3, that's 15x. And the sum is 23x. So this is the correct factorization. All right, let's look at number 37. In number 37, we have a polynomial with 4 terms. Now, the only method that we learned for a polynomial with 4 terms was grouping, so we're going to try grouping. All right, so first we're going to pull out something from the first 2 terms and then the second 2 terms. So from the first 2 terms, we can pull out an x squared. And we're left with x plus 7. From the second 2 terms, we have a 5 and a 35. We can pull out a factor 5, and we're left with x. And here when we pull out 5, we're left with 7. So again, so we have that same factor, or that same binomial, x plus 7, that we can now pull out of the entire polynomial. So let's do that. So we're going to pull out x plus 7. First from this group, and we're left with x squared. And then from the second group, and we're left with 5. So this is the factorization. X plus 7 times x squared plus 5. Okay, number 38, we also have a polynomial with 1, 2, 3, 4 factors. So again, we're going to try grouping. From the first group, the first 2 terms, we can pull out x squared. And we're left with x minus 2. Now we'd like to be left with x minus 2 in the second group if this is going to work, if we can apply factoring by grouping, we need an x minus 2 here. Alright, so let's pull out, because of the negative, we're going to pull out a minus 3. And here we're left with x. And when we pull out minus 3 from 6, we get minus 2. Just let's check that. If we multiply back, we get minus 3x. That's what we have here. And then minus 3 times the minus 2 is plus 6. So you see that's right. This is correct. So we can pull out, from the first group, we can pull out that x minus 2. And we'll be left with x squared. And from the second group, we pull out x minus 2, and we're left with minus 3. So here's the factorization. And finally, let's look at number 39, which is 64x to the 6 minus 27. All right. So here we have two terms subtracted. This is not a difference of two squares, even though 64 is a perfect square, and so is x to the 6 because of the even exponent. But 27 is not a perfect square. So how about the difference of two cubes? Well, 64 is also a perfect cube. It's 4 cubed, and x to the 6 is also a perfect cube because 6 is divisible by 3. So that's a perfect cubed. And 27 is 3 cubed. So let's write this as a difference of two cubes, like this. Okay, 4 cubed is 64, so we put a 4 here. And here, x to the 6, just divide the 6 by 3, and we get 2, so we put an x squared in here. And here we put 3. Just check that out. 3 cubed is 64, and x squared cubed is x to the 6. Okay. So now we'll put down our small set of parentheses and our big. And right here we put the 4x squared minus 3. And in the big set of parentheses, we know that we have all pluses because the minus sign is in the first set of parentheses. So these are all pluses here. All right, our first term is going to be this squared, which would be 16x to the 4th. 4 squared and x squared squared. That's 16x to the 4th. Then we have a plus sign. Then the middle term is this times this, which will be 12x squared. And our last term is this squared, 3 squared, so that's 9. And that's the end of our review.